Allen Lund Company has new offices in Ogden, Utah and Indianapolis, Indiana. Check allenlund.com to reach them.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Scott Thompson.
Welcome to the show. We've got a good one for you today. Here in a moment, we'll get to the top trucking news of the day, which includes a call on FMCSA to crack down on unlicensed CDL holders. Then we'll take a step back for a moment and reflect on the times we're living in. We're swimming in so much information these days, it can be pretty difficult at times to figure out whether the information you're getting is the right information. And with the ascension of artificial intelligence, it's likely to get worse in the years to come. So we'll talk about navigating through the confusion. After that, from a truck driver's efforts to raise money for our nation's heroes to growing support for cargo theft prevention and more, Tyson Fisher, S.J. Munoz, and Ryan Witkowski of Landline Magazine hand out roses to those doing right by truckers and raspberries to those who aren't in our latest installment of Roses and Razzberries. And finally, you may have caught our recent conversation with the president of the Minnesota Trucking Association about a study on the electrification of large trucks. In that discussion, he had a message: take a deep breath. Marty Ellis thinks that's some pretty good advice. Mark Reddick talks with the man who drives the spirit of the American trucker. So, as I said, we've got a good one for you today. But first, today's news. A U.S. Senator is calling on the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration to crack down on unlicensed CDL holders. We're going to spend a little time talking about that today and another item or two with Mark Schirmer of Landline Magazine. Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So we're going to start with this letter sent by Senator John Hickenlooper of Colorado. He's reacting to a number of crashes and other incidents in recent months and years involving, again, unlicensed CDL holders. The one he kind of cites the most in this letter is a crash from June on U.S. Route 285 in Jefferson County, Colorado, that made national headlines. Essentially, he wants more scrutiny from FMCSA, more oversight, a stronger commitment to making sure safety standards are being upheld. Mark, you can kind of sense the frustration in the senator's letter. Your reaction to this, because these are things we've heard from the industry for a number of years.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back at this record, and I mean, there was egregious sort of actions looking back at it. And I think one of the things that's kind of frustrating from a lot in the trucking industry is that there are so many rules and regulations, and drivers, operators have to bend over backwards, spend a lot of expense to comply with all of these. And then you have egregious bad actors such as this that are finding loopholes in the system and are still out on the road. So it seems like sometimes, there's so much, work and effort and expense that's going into regulating the people that are already trying to do a good job, that are already trying to be safe, that are professional drivers out there, and then we're still letting this sort of thing happen. So whether you're talking about safety rating scores or whatever it is, it does, it becomes frustrating, I think, for a lot of the drivers out there. And the good drivers out there, they don't want these bad drivers on the road either.
Right.
There needs to be find a way to clean this up and obviously increase safety for everybody.
And Senator Hickenlooper is asking out loud in this letter whether FMCSA does have the resources it needs to thoroughly audit these trucking companies that are, as you kind of put it there, thumbing their nose at the rules and the regulations, and also asking how many trucking companies over the past couple of years has FMCSA found to have failed a safety audit. These are valid questions. I think
100%.
They are good that they're coming from a U.S. senator, because there needs to be accountability here, and we need to figure out where the holes are so they can be filled. So that, as you pointed out there, everybody wants to be safe out there. We've got these bad actors that are kind of the bad apples of the bunch.
Yeah, one of the things from when I've been covering this for about 9 years now, but one of the things that kind of surprised me when I came into it is like when you're looking for numbers, like the exact number of CDL holders, people operating, all of those things, like it's kind of amazing how, like, there is a little bit of a lack of oversight or even knowledge of exactly what all is going on.
Right.
This is so big, and there are so many out there, and trying to keep the supply chain moving and all of that stuff.
Sure.
It is kind of amazing when you look at it. It's a huge task, but yeah, I think that there are definitely valid criticisms and concerns over this issue.
We'll keep an eye on this one, of course, and somewhat related, I think, and you're going to kind of connect the dots here, but you've been following this other story here. It involves an exemption request from earlier this year where an individual truck driver was asking FMCSA for a 1-year exemption from the ELD mandate. No surprise here. That exemption request was denied, but this one has garnered some interesting feedback, I know, from the comment period. Yeah,
and I think we're connecting these two is kind of going back to, like this was, you have kind of an egregious bad actor. They're able to get away with things. And then here you have the ELD mandate, which so many truckers, OIDA, and everybody will say, question. There's no proven safety benefits. This has been in place for a while. It hasn't had this dramatic effect of fewer crashes or anything like that. So this is one of those things. And basically what this small trucking company, one truck operator, GTLM Transport, is basically saying, hey, the margins right now are razor thin. I feel like I could spend the money that you're having me spend on ELDs. I could spend it on other things that would help me improve safety instead, and I could just go to paper logs and we'd be better off. Of course, safety groups came out and said, no, this is a terrible idea. This would be bad. But I think there were 122 comments on this, and 62 of them were in support. So it shows you that there was a lot of interest on it, and there are a lot of drivers out there that still are not sold that the ELD mandate has done anything to improve safety.
Yeah, and we were talking earlier, and you pointed something out that I think was spot on. That if FMCSA had granted this request, there would have been a flood of other
at some point you'd just come in and say, okay, if you grant this, then, all...
Basically, you're throwing it all out. Yeah. And, that's not
so
what happened.
we knew it wasn't going to happen.
Exactly. But it is a conversation that will continue, and, this will not be the last exemption request we see on this. They're going to keep coming, but... I would imagine, unless something changes, FMCSA will continue to deny them. Mark, you're going to stick around for a bit. You, Jamie, and I are going to talk about, Jamie Jones, I should say, are going to talk about the world of misinformation here in just a moment. So we'll see you again soon. We appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Before we hit the break, we've got a couple more headlines from the trucking world here, starting with another nuclear verdict. This time it's Daimler Truck North America on the hook for $160 million. That's what a jury in Alabama decided. Daimler was found liable for a 2022 rollover crash involving a 2023 model year Western Star truck that paralyzed its driver. The manufacturer was found liable for a defective roof design and a lack of an automatic pull-down seat. And earlier this week, of course, we told you about a separate nuclear verdict against Wabash National, which was ordered by a jury to pay out $462 million to the families of two men who were killed in a crash back in 2019. And one more item here. The governors of Louisiana and Mississippi have declared states of emergency in the wake of Hurricane Francine. The orders give commercial drivers providing direct assistance relief from hours of service requirements. Updates to these stories and more on our website, landline.media. We're going to hear from Marty Ellis a little later on in the show, but if you'd like to talk with the man who drives the OOIDA tour truck face-to-face, he's at the Petro in New Paris, Ohio through Saturday. So stop by, say hi to Marty, and join OOIDA at a discount. Coming up next, we have more access to more information than any other human being that's ever lived before us, but a lot of it, frankly, is bad information. Mark Schimmer's back after the break to join me and Jamie Jones in a conversation about information and why it's important to find a trusted source. So hang tight. We've got more Landline now on the other side of this break.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Capital Reman is your leading source for quality remanufactured engines and components. Capital Reman stands ready to serve all OOIDA members to help reduce costly engine repairs or replacement. Visit capitalreman.com today and use code OOIDA10 to save.
Penske is the trusted source for quality used trucks. Whether you search our website, call our sales staff, or bid at our online auction, you are sure to find the right used truck for your business. Visit PenskeUsedTrucks.com to view our inventory and learn more.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
It's safe to say it's getting more and more difficult to know who to trust when it comes to information these days, especially if you spend any time online, especially on social media. You probably know someone who's been duped by misinformation or even disinformation. That person may have been you, and there is no shame in that. But as we settle into a new era of information, we thought it might be a good idea to provide some advice about how to discern what's real and what's fake, where to go for trusted news, and more. Joining us for that discussion are two friends of the show, Jamie Jones and Mark Schirmer, both of Landline Magazine. Good to see the both of you.
Hey, good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Now, Jamie, everything we're going to be talking about here today was kind of spurred by something you're working on for, I believe, the next issue of the magazine. Kind of walk us through, if you would, how this topic kind of came to your mind here.
Well, every time we get to this point in an election year, a presidential election year, it inevitably, you start seeing the commercials, you start seeing everything that's going on, the rhetoric from both sides, we have reported cases of foreign, misinformation. We have all these different things that really try and vie for our attention and our emotional decision to believe or not believe it. And so generally speaking, a lot of it is, it goes back to the days, it's an advertising gimmick, McDonald's throws their Big Mac on the screen and all of a sudden you want a Big Mac. It's the power of suggestion. It works on your subconscious. Advertising is out there. What's made it even worse, we've seen a real decline in the trust in the media, which from our perspective is kind of hard to swallow because, we do consider ourselves ethical journalists and we're not in the infotainment industry where we're trying to take some news and just entertain you with it, keep your attention, get your clicks, whatever. Now we have this influx of artificial intelligence, and you can already tell how it's just social media is just full of it. It's insane, and the lack of factual information, because what AI does is just goes out onto the internet and it grabs purported facts, packages them up and presents them as such. And if things are misreported or not accurate or there is a misinformation campaign out there, AI can't differentiate on that. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing just more and more junk being slung at us. And so it's easy to want to just duck your head and ignore it all. I think that's kind of the response from a lot of us.
Yeah, and I mentioned off the top, social media has made all of this so much worse. I think that's safe to say.
100%.
There's so much, again, misinformation, disinformation, where people are trying to fool you into believing something. It can be very difficult for folks. I talk about a friend sometimes who saw an article on social media. It was something about like Bruce Willis and his car breaking down. In their local town, in their local town, and how he got help. And I saw it and I thought my alarm bells started going off, and I thought there's something wrong here. But it's so easy to get duped these days or fooled these days. And then now, it used to be you tell a friend or whatever. Now it gets shared over and over again on social media, and it's everywhere.
And even if you do see it and go, okay, there are some problems with this, so you let the person that shared it on your feed, let them know, hey, look back at the original source on this. I'll show you, I'll send you a link to the real facts on this. Maybe you convince them, but that's already been filtered out to so many other people, and they keep on sharing it, and they keep on sharing it. So it's like it's just kind of this germs being spreaded of incorrect information. It's going out to everywhere, and it's hard to stop. And it's like they don't even want to trust what should be the trusted news organizations anymore.
Yeah. Well, and for those of us who want to date ourselves a little bit, when you consumed news, it used to have a structure to it, if you will. The morning paper or afternoon, if you had an afternoon daily, the morning paper would show up and you would read the paper over coffee in the morning or whatever, or, at least look at the headlines, see what the big deal was. And then 6:30 would roll around, whatever time your local news would come on, and you would sit and watch the news, that evening.
Yeah.
I mean, it was doled out in a formal fashion.
And it was spanned out over time, too.
Over time. We weren't
Now
having to
we're being
fill a
inundated.
24-hour news cycle. So it was easy just to have the top 5-6 stories that need discussed, and that's what's going on, and that's all that's interesting. But now it's just everything's vying for your attention.
Yeah.
So they're stooping to AI and purporting, re-reporting things that aren't exactly true.
Yeah, and that's the other part of it. So that spread out over time, but it also took them time to figure out ratings and that type of situation. Now they instantly know that this is getting clicks, this is getting views, so they're going to keep on going at that because at the end of the day, that's where the money's at for all of these types of channels.
And it's a race to be first, too. You see a lot of that as well. What I always say, working at a small town newspaper when I started out, if breaking news happened at 9 a.m, we had all day to get the story correct before whatever we put into the paper that would go into the next morning. Now it's, if it happened at 9 o'clock, you better have a story at 9:10.
Yeah.
And but when you're reporting, you find out, you get led one way, and then you go, oh, okay, that's not correct. You get, and then you take all those facts and you put it together. Now what happens is even the ones that are trying to do it right, they're putting that story out 9:10 a.m. They do fix it later. But how many people go back and see that corrected version? And
the horse is
it?
out of the barn at that
Exactly.
point. It's just really problematic. And so, you really, I don't think anything that we talked about so far is a big shock to anybody who's turned on a computer or looked at social media on their phone lately. It's just chaotic. For not using more colorful language. I mean, it's just, there is just this chaos of information out there trying to get your attention. And so I think it's real important for those of us in the media who are not beholden to this 24/7 news cycle where we have the chance to give you thoughtful, researched, and accurate information, that we hold true to those tenets and our ethics. And, that's something that I believe is very important. And it's been nice as this erosion in trust in the media has continued to drop, is having conversations with my friends because they know I'm a journalist. They know I'm proud of it. And I think it's important to share those ethics and what you hold close to so that they'll understand that this means something to us. We're not just out there trying to get your clicks. We want you to have the exact information that you need.
Well, and the full story, too, and a well-rounded story. So much of what we're talking about right now is, I think there are folks out there that are trying to get a rise out of people because they know that will increase the number of clicks that they
100%.
get. Yeah. So there's a lot of that out there. And in you talking about this, Jamie, and I think it's an interesting conversation, and you kind of raise the point of, where do we go from here and how do we control it? Because I think the horse is way out of the barn. The horse is like in a different time zone now.
It's in the Kentucky Derby now.
Yeah, it's gone. And it's only going to get worse now with AI, as you kind of point out. I think we're going to see a lot more stuff out there that is meant to divide, incite, whatever it may be, a lot of negativity. I guess the question I have for both of you is, what should people listening be doing out there? Because we're all consumers here. We're all just, we're all, staring at our phones and we want that dopamine hit, whatever comes with it is, here or there. What do we do, I guess, is what advice would you have for people out there as they kind of try to navigate this crazy new world that we're living in?
I think that answers probably unique for everybody, depending on what, your motivation is, why you feel the need to be informed. I mean, I am a firm believer that we need to know what's going on in our local communities, in our state and regions, but for truckers, it's a national outlook because everything that they do. I was really to the point that I had it with news, and my job is to report the news.
Yeah,
so I would get,
same here, yeah.
And so I would get to work, and I would specifically look for just the news that mattered to our readers and listeners. I was looking for trucking-related news that was important. So I really backed away from all of it, but now I've expanded that, and it's more, for me personally, it's a thoughtful approach to consuming news. And I have different sources that I am comfortable going to because I know that it's without editorializing, it's without analysis unless it's clearly marked. It's just telling me what the facts are, what happened, and lets me form my own opinion. And I think that's what's so important that we need to do. And that's what we try to do. We really report what's happening in trucking news and how it's going to affect truckers, but we're not going to tell you automatically how you need to feel about it. You may, speed limiters. We've even had people call in and say, I like mine. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
We're anti-mandate.
Yeah.
So, there's things like that we always navigate, but it's really important. I think you need to understand where your biases are politically.
Yeah.
And not to just feed those. I think there needs to be thoughtful curation of the news and pick some sources that will just give you that.
We're all, and that's the thing too, not getting political at all. It is safe to say that we are all in our bubbles. Mm-hmm. And once you get in that bubble and you're hearing what you want to hear, it kind of validates your feelings. It is so easy to continue that cycle and keep seeking out that information that kind of validates that. It is important. It's difficult, but it's important to kind of maybe try to look at other sides and don't react before you post. Don't post before you think about it, I think, as well, too.
Right.
Is another thing.
It all comes down to if your frame of reference is what you see on social media, then I literally, my life is full of cats and Chiefs football, and that's it. That's what my social media feed, my personal feed is all about. It is funny cat videos and anything to do with the Chiefs that's truthful. So that's it. That's my little narrow world. And I'm okay with that.
Hey, that's a fine world to live in. I think so. I think that's good.
But seriously, you can tighten it down to the point that you're only seeing things that interest you, and that's not always a good approach, especially when you're talking about current events, legislation, regulation, those things.
If you want to do cats and Chiefs, that's fine.
Right.
I'm talking
that's
about
my
kind
entertainment.
of the other stuff, that can be a little more, makes you want to just kind of jump out of your skin sometimes. Mark, you wanted to say something.
Yeah. So I think, when we look at this, we write about things that advocate for truckers' rights. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I think that shows that we are an objective news source is that sometimes those bills that are positive for truckers are coming from Democrats. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're from Republicans. Mm-hmm. Sometimes really bad ones are coming from Democrats. Sometimes really bad ones are coming from Republicans. And if we're giving you both of that, and if you have any source that is doing it that way, that's probably a more down the middle trusted organization, where if they're telling you that it's always great on one side or the other, then just put on your judgment hat a little bit and just kind of question it a little bit more.
Yeah, it really is. Question everything right now, and that's so important to question everything. Don't be contrary, but just you see a headline, you're like, is this true? Go and do what we do. We second source things. We third source things. Mm-hmm. We find multiple ways to confirm information, and that's what you need to be doing personally.
Yeah, and it's not easy to do, as we kind of said at the beginning there, because there are so many intentional head fakes out there that people are trying to, they're trying to get a rise out of you because they know that is going to keep you going back to that particular website. And I'd like to say that hopefully we'll return to a time of sanity, but I'm not. I think that horse is, as you said, Kentucky
It's just
Derby.
going to be another new normal.
Yeah. Well, I was hoping to end on a good note, but I guess we'll end on that one. Mark, Jamie, we appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And we're back right after this.
Truckdown.com. Whenever you have a breakdown, you need Truckdown.com. 24/7 access to 40,000 verified heavy-duty repair vendors nationwide. Repair secured. Load assured. Truckdown.com.
Firestone tires are for more of everything, with more durability for more miles and more confidence in your fleet. Firestone's tested tires help fleets save with value where it matters most. Learn more at bridgestonenationalfleet.com/4moremiles.
Dispatch, I picked up that load of steel, so I'm ready to roll.
Sounds good. Remember, we're getting paid by weight, so make sure to use a cat scale.
I wouldn't weigh anywhere else.
Forget miss accuracy, weigh your truck on a cat scale.
Landline Now, welcome back. Has your senator or congressman made you happy lately? Did the truck stop make you kind of sad? When they do either one, here at Landline, we have a special way of responding.
Ew.
We call it Roses and Razzberries. Staff writer S.J. Munoz keeps track of such things for Landline Magazine and for our program. S.J. is here now with the good, the bad, and the ugly from recent news.
And we're back with another edition of Roses and Razzberries. S.J. Munoz, Ryan Witkowski, Tyson Fisher here again, doing the three-man weave style. Ryan, that's something you coined here, and we're gonna stick with it because
it's a little give and go.
Yeah, it seems about right. But just to get going here, like we always do, if you do have an idea for a rose or a raspberry, we'll accept either, or even maybe a mixed bag. Sometime we have those. Just send those to roses@landlinemag.com. And looking, no spoilers here, but just looking ahead, it looks like you two gentlemen might have been in a pretty good mood here.
I was in a great mood. I'm all roses today.
Seems like we have a little bit heavy on the rose side, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and get started here. Tyson, you got the first one, so we'll let you get going with those roses here.
Sure, yeah. So I'm going to give roses to a former truck driver named Toby Kemp for his charity fundraising effort called Trucking for a Cure Tennessee. And that supports truckers, police officers, and members of the military, so veterans and active duty. So what he does is that he raises money for charities like Rest Stop Ministries is one of them, which a lot of people listening are probably familiar with, but also for a charity called Voices for Victims, and a Special Forces Charitable Trust, which supports Green Berets and their families.
He's kind of got all the bases covered here. He
really does, yeah. And so, but it also includes scholarships for truckers, police officers, and military children. So he actually does his own little fundraising for his own efforts. But yeah, it's grown exponentially. So like 7 years ago, he raised about $4,500. But last year he raised like $500,000.
Oh.
So
I'm sorry. Wow, 7 years he's had that growth?
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Job,
just that,
man.
I mean.
So yeah, no, it's excellent. And so, and the cool thing is, so like his own personal story is one that at least kind of used to define the American trucker. So he was, raised in a large family, didn't have a lot of money growing up, dropped out of high school, joined the workforce, and then that's when he found trucking. And so did trucking, did it for like 30 years, and then he ended up making a pretty good living as a truck driver. So, that has always been the appeal to trucking. It has been a working class job with a middle class income that's accessible to anyone, regardless of their background. So, I think that partially explains why the trucking community is such a charitable bunch. You have a lot of drivers who come from nothing. They make a pretty good chunk of change from trucking, and then they just give back, knowing what it's like to struggle. And so, Toby Kemp kind of defines that spirit of the trucker.
I always thought it was cool, too, about truckers, because you're right, they are a really charitable bunch. And when you're asking for people to do things for charity, not only are you asking for their dollars, but you're asking for their time, too.
Sure.
And this is an industry where time is money. And these guys, you're giving basically double. You're giving your money and you're giving your time to really advance these kinds of causes. And it's really impressive how, you're right, there seems to be some connection to trucking and almost every charity imaginable.
Yeah, it's insane. And again, I think that just comes from that humble background. You come from that humble background, I think you're more susceptible to giving your time and money. So it's really cool to see.
Yeah, to me, it's kind of just a little more incredible too. The fact that in the industry, and you really have to work hard to get to this level and be successful and really be profitable. And it'd be easy just to be like, I did it myself. Why should I help? But basically the exact opposite, where you understand how hard it is is to get there, and you're willing to give back. So
well, and let's be honest too. Like given the last several years, like it hasn't exactly been all pardon the pun, roses for the industry in terms of making money. And so to see this continue to grow like that, it really is impressive. Yep. It's kind of defying some of those odds.
Well, the next topic, as a whole, is probably not such a good thing. But you were able to put your positive spin on it here, Ryan, and find some roses in the midst of all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So cargo theft has been something that obviously I cover, and it's been a big hot button issue in the industry because it has been on just a meteoric rise over the last couple of years. And when I've talked to people at Overhaul or CargoNet, folks that cover the industry and cover those cargo theft losses, like it has been year after year after year for the last 4 or 5 years have been setting new records, breaking new records. Wow. And so finally lawmakers are really starting to take note and say, hey, we need to step in and figure out how to do something about it. So roses to the cargo theft bill, the Safeguarding Our Supply Chains Act, picking up a 13th co-sponsor now. That bill was introduced back in June by David Valadeo, the representative from California. And that bipartisan bill basically is aiming to improve coordination between the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI with the hope of slowing that rate of cargo theft in our country. And the idea behind it is that better communication from a federal level to state and local law enforcement is going to be able to let people identify when there's really, maybe a cargo theft ring or organized crime at hand. And a lot of this is starting to trend in that direction. So curbing some of that is kind of at the crux of that bill. But in an interview with Landline Now, Valadeo said, quote, this is a very non-controversial piece of legislation. It's very bipartisan. And the more they hear about it, obviously they sign on because it's a very simple bill. It's something that most people are seeing in their districts, and they want to make sure that they're part of the solution on this one. Currently, 7 states, legislators from 7 states have joined the fight. Obviously, California, where Valadeo is from, but also Illinois, Texas, Minnesota, Florida, Virginia, Mississippi, and Nevada. And interesting to note, too, out of those states, when you look at the top 3, California, Illinois, and Texas, over the last 2 years, those have been the top 3 states for cargo theft in our country.
Yeah.
And so for them to jump on early is important, but to continue to, try to, build something and give, carriers a little bit of a sense of, hey, we can kind of work together and try to solve some of this problem. I don't think it's going to be, ultimately what cures the ill. Obviously, you still have to go through your own protections and those sorts of things, but being able to curb some of this and get some of that organized crime out of it, that element is definitely a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, we're not trying to, compliment, the thieves in any way by this much, but there are some sophisticated operations on that side.
Smart.
So I'm saying, like, you can't just be like, oh, I'm just going to put a lock on something and it's going to be okay. You know what I mean? Like, you really have to kind of go above and beyond, and obviously it's been shown by the reporting that's been done and just the numbers, how they're increasing. So this is kind of the type of thing that probably does need to be put in place.
Sure.
All right, well, we got to cover both sides, obviously, right? So we are on to the Razzberries, and Tyson, I want you to tell us about this one.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So, Razzberries to a truck driver who caused a major traffic headache on Interstate 64 in Virginia after accomplishing what looked to be a pretty incredible feat. So last week, images were flying around social media showing a trailer striking an overhead sign on the interstate. So you're probably wondering here, it's like, how does a trailer strike an overhead sign, which are designed to pretty much be high enough for even oversized loads to clear,
It's a pretty good clearance there, yeah.
It does, yeah. So, the trailer was standing upright at a 90-degree angle.
So just a giant L traveling down the highway.
Pretty much, yeah, right. So then you're probably now wondering, how does that happen? Like, how does, so...
You'd be correct.
Yeah, right. Because that was my first question, too. It's like, all right, I see what's happening. How did we get here? So it looks like it's a grain trailer, so you can see the open top. And so as someone on Twitter surmised, so what they think happened is, and this makes sense, is that the power takeoff was probably left in gear, which allowed the trailer to slowly rise up before eventually, hitting that stop or hitting the overhead sign. So that's the one theory going out there. So what's even more perplexing is the fact that the truck driver had stopped at a weigh station just like less than a mile before hitting that overhead sign. So he had to
Everything
stop.
looks fine. Keep it moving.
Yeah, so I don't know if he did an inspection. I'm guessing not. And if he did, it was a pretty poor one. Yeah, not very thorough. So, so this caused traffic on I-64 to be backed up for 6 miles. And so, fortunately, the trailer was empty. So, if that wasn't the situation, it could have been worse, especially like if this is like a manure situation, just dumping a whole load on the highway. That didn't happen, fortunately. And even more fortunately, no one got injured as a result of this. So, my first instinct that it was like, oh, this was a rookie mistake. You left the power take off.
Somebody new to the job didn't, cover every aspect of whatever's going on there. Yeah.
And so I was reading some local news stories, and apparently the driver is the 62-year-old man who got cited for reckless driving. So I'm guessing probably not a rookie in the industry. Could be. I don't know this guy's story, but the moral of the story here is you're never
he's a rookie at all.
You don't think so?
I don't think he is.
I think it's a safe bet.
It could be a second career, one of those type of things.
It could be.
Yeah. So
one door closes and another opens. That's what it is.
But the moral of the story is you're never too old to do stupid stuff at work.
Amen to that.
It's kind of like you need the.
I get 2 in a day easily.
They need the narrator to be kind of like over the. Since nobody got hurt, we'll make a little light of the situation. You're probably wondering how I got in this situation, like one of those voiceover type things.
Nice freeze frame as he's hitting the sign.
Well, we talked about truckers kind of doing the right thing or giving. But in this case, it was a trucking company. Ryan, why don't you tell us about this one?
I firmly believe that truckers are extremely lucky people. Basically because every month I get like 4 or 5 stories where truckers have won the lottery in some capacity, be it, scratch-off tickets, which, by the way, I have never won on a scratch-off ticket, or, they're actually winning like, substantial sums in the lottery. This particular guy was from Texas. He had traveled to Maryland, had purchased some Powerball tickets, wound up matching 4 of the white balls and the Powerball, and that nets you $50K,
nice.
Which is pretty damn impressive, right? I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. The issue was that he had already returned to Texas by the time that he figured this out. Here's a Powerball rule that I didn't know, and I don't know why I would have known this before, but if you win in a state, you have to return to the state that you purchased a ticket in to claim your prize.
That's nice. That's convenient,
isn't it? So now he has to get his ass back to Maryland to get his $50K. In what I can only describe as a total trucker move, his company actually routed him back to Maryland. Because time is money. We discussed that earlier. Right. So hey, why don't you go pick up your prize, and while you're at it, take this load for us too.
Oh, that's nice.
It was awful nice of him to do it. The other aspect of the story that I really appreciated was he was an anonymous winner, which is great in the photographic evidence because every time they present the check, they're like holding the check up over their head and it just says like lucky lotto winner. But also you just know he's got family issues or random third cousins that are going to be coming up going, hey, can I get a little $20 you owe me?
Not sure if the company was named, but you might want to watch out for those coworkers at the same time here.
That's right.
All right, well, we're about out of time, but we do have time for one more row. So Tyson, you got another interesting story. You're kind of hitting us with the good stuff here, digging deep to find these interesting roses.
Yeah, so a truck driver for roses for a truck driver for turning lemons to lemonade, or in this case, eggs to, egg sandwiches. Is that
omelet? Maybe.
Fair? Is that fair? Okay. Omelets, yeah. So what happened is a receiver rejected 3 pallets of eggs that was brought in by a trucker, and the reason was wrong packaging. That was it. There was nothing wrong with the eggs. So rather than send 26,000 eggs to the dumpster, the trucker decided to give the eggs to those in need. So once again, highlighting the charitable nature of the trucking community. So, it's just one of those things, though, I understand this because it's insane how much food and other products large companies waste for, stupid, trivial reasons like, wrong packaging. So this post was on Reddit. That's where I found this. And other drivers talked about similar situations, including the rejection of a crate of Gatorade because of a small tear, 50 pounds of curly fries rejected since the corners. So anyway, truckers are seeing this, and rather than just throw them away, they're just doing what any good person would do. It's like, I'm going to give this to people who need it. So it's just, again, really cool to see.
Yeah, I don't have many, but that's definitely one of my pet peeves is wasting food. I don't know if you guys are there, but when the kids aren't finishing their plate, I'm like, bro, Let's go. We're not throwing that away.
Are you garbage disposal it up and taking care of it
That's
for
what we
him?
got the dog for, okay? So.
Well, waste not one now.
All right, well, thanks for joining us for this edition of Roses and Razzberries. For Tyson Fisher and Ryan Witkowski, I'm SJ Munoz. Again, if you have ideas for roses or raspberries, please send them to roses@landlinemag.com. Landline Now will be back after this commercial break.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off Truckstop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2024 when you purchase Load Board Pro.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
If you're running ultra-low sulfur diesel in your vehicle, make sure you are prepared and protected all winter long with Howes Diesel Treat, the #1 anti-gel product in North America from the 100-plus year trusted brand Howes Products.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. Every week, we check in with Marty Ellis, who drives OOIDA's tour truck, the Spirit of the American Trucker. Recently on our program, we had a conversation with the president of the Minnesota Trucking Association about a study that the group conducted regarding electrification of large trucks and what's involved in that process. And in that discussion, he had a message: take a deep breath. Marty thinks that's some pretty good advice.
Carolina west to Denver, up to Bangor, west to Austin, coast to coast, sea to sea, sail on, sail on.
Well, Marty, how are you doing?
I am lovely, Mark, and you?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. Let's just kind of dive right into it this week. There's something that came up regarding the Minnesota Trucking Association, and it caught your attention. I'd kind of like you to explain to us what happened up there.
Yeah, they did basically an interview that I had heard about a study that they looked at and what they were suggesting to their members, and on electric trucks and autonomous trucks is what I was understanding with all of that. And one of the things that the guy come out and said, and I can't remember his name, I apologize for that.
John Housladen, I think, is the guy.
Okay, John. And he had said, what everybody needs to do is take a deep breath. And that, to me, is so smart. It's like, we get all wrapped up whenever we see news on any of it coming down, especially when it's going to affect your livelihood. And like the cost of electric trucks, when people walk in the door of the trailer and talk to me, they're saying there's no way I can go out and buy a $450,000, $500,000 rig. Okay, it can't happen. And then with the charging, where are we going to charge everything? And and then the next thing will be the autonomous trucks, and then we'll all be out of work. And I'm so happy with John saying, just take a deep breath, because none of this is happening tomorrow. Okay, so take a deep breath. And I still believe, even as it progresses along, I always tell people, whether you like electric or not, when we go and buy a new drill, are you buying a corded one or a battery one? Well, we're buying a battery one. And the reason we do that is for convenience. And the batteries, yes, when they first started coming out, they weren't very good. You knew that you were not going to get through whatever job you were trying to get done. So we just have to kind of take a deep breath and take it for what it is. Most of the people that are reporting that it's right around the corner or happening this year or next year or whatever, they're selling this, okay, or they're producing the things that go with it. So they're going to want to hype things up, and I get that. I mean, that's their job to go do. But we as just normal, everyday people out here, we have to stop, take a deep breath. There was times then in my regular trucking that I literally had to turn the radio off and no more trucking news for a little bit. And I'm not encouraging to turn the radio off. Okay, keep the radio on. Thanks. But I had to kind of take a step back from it a little bit, especially if my mind started getting to the worrying about too many things. So, one thing I did like about Landline before I ever got on here is that there was a lot of bottom lining it and a lot more common sense to a lot of these issues. So that helped me a lot, and hopefully it's helping you out there. And speaking about being on the radio, I got guys come in the trailer and say, hey, you're the face behind the voice. And, and I do really appreciate knowing that people are out there listening. And, Mark is the same way. It's if you see him at a truck show, you definitely want to go and talk to him. And I appreciate you stopping in when you do, because your time is valuable.
There you go. Absolutely. And especially in this day and age, everybody's rushing everything so fast.
Absolutely.
Kind of getting back to where we started here with this conversation with John Houselayden and talking about electric trucks. And we have to remember that right now, what we're doing is we are moving at the speed of government. And the speed of government is not fast. If you want to learn patience, work with the government, because nothing happens quickly. And in this case, that plays to our advantage.
Yeah, in this particular instance, it does. And I've talked to people about that, and I do not know how our guys in Washington deal with that.
Oh, God, yeah.
There has to be dents on the walls from putting their head up against it and banging it, saying, what the heck? We've been working on this for this long. And I get it. It doesn't happen as fast as we would like, but OOIDA works within the rules and regulations and laws. And this is how the system's set up. And that's one thing, when I joined was I wanted somebody representing me in Washington, D.C., but I didn't want to go because I don't think that I could have the patience.
Yep. And it really does require it. It's just before I came to work here, you go back more than 20 years ago, I worked with some government agencies, and I was used to being in an environment, I think that's like a lot of owner-operators. You see a problem, you figure out how to solve it, and then you go do it.
Right.
That's what you have to do out in commercial land, in the business world. And boy, it isn't like that in government. First, we have to conduct 5 studies.
Right.
It's just not fast. And in this case, I know that the government set some really ambitious goals for this electric truck stuff.
Right.
But government also has a tendency to push back deadlines. And I don't see how they're going to have any choice this time. We just cannot. It's not practical for long haul. They don't have chargers in most of the country.
Right.
It's just not going to happen fast.
Yeah. I mean, whether you agree with electric trucks or electric cars and that, it is going to take some time. Yes, there's a lot of cars out there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we can go from an electric car to an electric truck just by factoring in the weight and all. There's a whole lot of other factors that go into it. We've seen some missteps along the way with LNG and putting in a lot of stations and that are sitting dormant now. And that spot could have been for truck parking, but it really got, probably took out 50 truck parking spots to put those in, and maybe even more in certain instances.
Yeah. Well, Marty, we've got about a minute and a half left, and I know that's not a lot of time, but there was another thing that you wanted to discuss, and it involves an expression, and that's being dead right. Can you explain what you mean by that or what that term is?
Yeah, and again, I apologize for not remembering who said that about, you could do the right thing on the road as far as legally correct, okay, but somebody could still end up dying. And whether it's you as the driver or another driver. And so he said, you'd never want to be dead right. And it's so true. Yes, that person might be cutting you off. That person might be, aggravating you by brake checking or things like that. Or you might be that person, okay? And so either way, you don't want to participate. It's whether it's, brake checking somebody else because everybody gets frustrated. And I want people to, whenever they're, just put it in the back of your head that you don't want to be dead right. You just leave it alone. You see somebody that's getting angered and all, try to get away from them, one way or the other. Slow down to the point where they are going to give up on you, or sometimes if you have a truck that'll get up out of the way and of somebody else, whether it's another truck driver or not, some of the time you need to do that just to get away from the issue.
Okay. Well, Marty, we're out of time. Any final words?
Hey, guys, just be kind to one another and give that guy next to you a break.
Brothers of the highway, children of the wind.
Once again, that was Marty Ellis, who drives OOIDA's tour truck, the Spirit of the American Trucker. You can find Marty's next stop on our show and every day at our website, landlinenow.com. That includes truck stops, truck shows, and other special events across the country. That's our program for today. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife.
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
chrome,
and I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us!
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.